Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Lotus Esprit Diary. This is episode 7 and the time has come to replace the rear brake pads. Now I think it was 2 owners before me actually bought the pads, possibly even 3, but none of the intervening owners actually fitted them. And of late I've noticed that it's squealing a little at the back, particularly after a bit of a journey, so I'm guessing that's the brake pads need replacing. Now it's not a straightforward task, as you might imagine. Anything with a Lotus Esprit is not straightforward. The brakes are inboard at the rear, so that means you have to jack up the whole of the back of the car to get access to them. So I've got that jacked up. I slackened off the wheel nuts to start with. I released the handbrake, chocked the front wheels, and I've jacked the back of the car up, put it onto axle stands. So hopefully that'll give me enough clearance and enough access once I've taken the wheels off to get at the brake calipers. So here are the brake calipers at the rear, and you can see the brake pads, just the edge of the brake pads just in there. And it's quite awkward because you've got this sort of structural tube in the way. But reading the instructions in the service notes, my understanding is I've got to undo this bolt up here and this one down here to remove the caliper, and then it should swing free and I'll be able to get access to it. So there you go, we've got a 13mm socket on the end of the nut that needs undoing, and then a 19mm spanner on the nut that sort of stops the other part of it coming. It keeps the other part of it still. So the caliper body is loose, but because of this other stuff around it, it's really not easy getting it off. Like everything is in the way of each other. Looks like the pads are loose as well, so if I can maybe get those out of the way, I might be able to get the caliper off. So here's the dilemma. What do you do when the old brake pads are very different in shape to the new ones? Now it looks like I'm going to have to go back to the catalogue, because I understood that these were the rear brake pads, but it's a very different design with those two things there now. Of course, it's possible that these are the wrong ones, and it's possible that these are the wrong ones, but who knows? A bit more investigation required. Well, sadly, from what I can see online at 2 different parts suppliers, these are most definitely not the right kind of brake pads. It might have been why previous owners didn't actually fit them. What I'm looking for is something much more like this. I'll put some pictures up of the ones that I've found, but they're definitely not these ones. So it looks like I'm going to have to put them back together again and have another go when I've ordered some more brake pads. So whilst I'm under here looking at this caliper body here, this sort of piston here is for the handbrake kind of adjustment ratchet. So that has to be turned and sort of pushed back in. The idea being it sort of resets the handbrake, so the handbrake cable doesn't have to be kind of tensioned every time you get a bit of wear on the pads. So it's sort of self-tensioning. You know, I need to get that in before I can slot the pads back in up here and put it back together prior to ordering the right parts. So given that the brake pads I've got are evidently front ones, I thought, why not change the front ones? Maybe that's what's squealing. Anyway, it should be an easier job than the rears because there's no handbrake to worry about, but who knows with this kind of thing, right? Let's see how we get on. So we've got the front wheel off. This is the passenger side, and just here and here, these little pins to come out, which then allows me to pull these sort of rods, these pins out, which should release this dust plate and then allow me to get access to the pads. Well, these brake pads that I've got are very clearly front brake pads, but looking at these, there's actually nothing much wrong with those. They look pretty thick. In fact, if anything, maybe they're too thick. But I noticed that they were kind of, you know, still they were touching the disc. They're quite stiff inside there, so I don't know if they're too big or not. They don't look that old compared to those. So I'll have a look at the other one on this side, and then I'll look on the other side as well. But you know, there's nothing wrong with putting those ones back in. But I'll just make sure I can spread the pistons a bit first. So I've got the brake pads out. You can see the pistons aren't really coming out at all. I don't know whether I should expect to see them kind of coming out. What I'm going to do is just go and open the car and just push the brake pedal, see if they do come out, because if they don't, that's not good either. So let's have a look and see what we get. Yeah, well, I think that has moved. That's moved in a little bit there. So thankfully the brake system is working, pedals are working with the fluid. So what I'm going to do is I'll spread those and put the pads back in, go check the other side. So I recently bought this tool just for the job, sort of piston or pad spreader. I think it's about £12 from Amazon. So I'm going to use that to spread the pistons back out so to get the pads in. So that's pretty easy to do, just turning this handle. These things do come with a sort of a hex thing, so you can get a socket on there, or you can just get the inside of a socket set into that to turn it over. But that wasn't too difficult. So now I'll just slacken this off. The pistons should stay where they are, and then I'll be able to get the pads back in. So just putting a tiny bit of copper grease, copper slip on there. I don't know what good it will do, but I think according to the manual there's supposed to be some shims that go alongside. Either they're missing, or maybe these pads are so thick you can't fit them in. But anyway, there you go. There's some of that. I'll just give that a little spread over. I've also given everything a bit of a clean with some brake cleaner. Just giving it a spray with that because it's pretty mucky. Anyway, let's pop these back in. Well, they're going in a whole lot easier than they came out, so I'm hoping that might help. Now, one of them is. Well, let's try it the other way around. Yeah, they've gone in a lot easier than they came out. So hoping that was the issue. So again, this is the driver's side, and again, no issue with the thickness of the pads. In fact, you know, maybe too thick, but again, that piston's pushing out quite a lot. So I've got a feeling there's possibly a little bit of binding going on. Just very slight scoring on the disc. Anyway, I shall clean that up, push the piston back in, and get the pads back in. Okay, that wasn't quite what I imagined to be doing, changing brake pads at the back, that turned into changing brake pads at the front, that turned into not changing pads at all because they were fine. But evidently the pistons were a little bit stiff, or plunged in too much, and they were rubbing against the brake discs. So I don't know, I'll take it out for a spin, but hopefully that sorted some of the issues out. I got a feeling though that there's a brake caliper overhaul being added into the to-do list. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a comment, tell me what I'm doing wrong, and Thanks for watching. Bye bye.